allowing me to participate today. This is the first time I've done this, so I'm a little nervous about it, but hopefully it'll be entertaining, I guess, or fun. A little bit about myself. Like she said, Jessica said, my name is Mignon Clark. I am currently a resident here in Battle Creek. I'm originally from Detroit. I'm actually a self-taught artist. I haven't had very much training at all, you know, a few classes here or there. Had some high school art classes, and matter of fact, as it turns out, at one time I thought I was going to become a graphic artist, but you know, as it turns out, I really liked science a lot more than I did art. So I ended up going to school and becoming an environmental scientist. So I've been doing that now for the last 25, maybe 30 years or so. It's been fun. You know, I really enjoy my work. Met a lot of nice people, learned a lot of great stuff, but all the time been working, I've never lost that desire to paint, you know, to draw and to create things. So about 10 years ago or so, I left the state maybe 20 years or so ago. But about 10 or 12 years ago, I got the chance to come back to Michigan, and I found myself with a lot more extra time. My son had grown up and he's out of the house, and so had a lot of time just to do stuff for me. And so I picked up my brushes and my paints and I started painting again. And so right now I'm kind of really just grooving on the acrylics and water-based oil paints. So, you know, I get the question a lot of times. I tell people, you know, they know me as an environmentalist, but, you know, I'll say, yeah, you know, by the way, I do paint. And they'll say, well, what do you paint? What kind of stuff do you do? What inspires you? You know, how do you separate that science stuff from, you know, your creative side? And so I tell them, you know, it's really just, painting is just a part of me. It is part of who I am. I'm one of those left and right brain people. I have to have the analytical stimulation and I have to have the creative stuff going on as well. So, but anyway, so most of my subjects when I'm painting, they vary. You know, I do a lot of landscapes when I have time. I really enjoy like the textures and the movement that you can get and put into a painting with landscape. And I really enjoy the textures and things that that I can use in those types of subjects. But I also really enjoy people, just painting people. I'm not necessarily a portrait artist. That's not quite my wheelhouse. I'm working on that. You know, that takes a particular skill set to really do well. But yeah, I really just like painting people and what they do in their regular everyday lives, just stuff that people do. What inspires me? Well, that's a little harder to pin down. It kind of is any and everything. You know, as we're moving through our daily lives, we come across all kinds of scenarios and people. And for me, it may not just be the people, but it could be something even as mundane as, I don't know, maybe a napkin blowing on the wind, you know, something that other people would not necessarily pay attention to, but it would inspire something in me. And also get a lot of my inspiration from my family and friends. They tend to like to throw little projects at me, which is cool. You know, I enjoy that a lot. We have a lot of, I have a lot of friends that like to take photographs, and sometimes they'll come to me and they say, hey, you know, I was on this vacation, I took this great photo, can you do something with this? Can you, will this inspire you to create something for me, you know, that kind of thing. So I really enjoy those things. I really enjoy doing those things for my friends. But one of the other things that I really enjoy is just taking an idea, like a concept, and just working that in my mind and letting it churn around and bounce around until it comes to this little idea that I'm ready to even just sketch out. And then once I sketch it out, then I kind of think about it some more and think about it some more. And so then, you know, I'm ready at about, well, I don't know, depends on the idea. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's a couple of years. But the exciting part for me is taking that sketch and turning it into an actual painting. And for me, when I paint, I may have that idea at like 80 or 90%, you know, it's on the canvas. I've got the bigger elements in there, and I'm just having fun with that. But then at some point, the painting just takes a life on itself. It starts to just become this its own being, you know. It just starts to blossom into this its own entity, I guess. But yeah, so anyway, that's me. That's where I'm coming from. And one of the main things, I guess, that's remained consistent with me in my work is that most of my work comes from a place of love. You know, it's love, it's positive energy, it's something that I really want to have someone to look at it, and if they can smile about it, I'm good. I'm great. I've done my job. But you know, it goes a little deeper than that. But that's the thing that drives me to paint and to create stuff, is the joy that other people get from it. And if it's something even as mundane as making them remember something that happened to them in the past, then that's great too. I love that kind of stuff. So, but anyway, so I want to share with you guys my my entry into the West Michigan show. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, okay. A little bit of a surprise. Wasn't expecting it to pop up like that, but that's okay. And let's see if we can get it. There we go. All right, so I got the sharing thing going. Okay, so let me make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see it. All right, there we go. Okay, so this is my entry into the West Michigan show. This piece is called A Slice of Key Lime Pie. And this one, the backstory about this is, okay, so the two people that are in this painting, those are my parents. And you know, I was saying earlier that some of the things that inspire me are my friends and my family. Well, this particular piece, this came from a photo that I took while we were on a family vacation a couple of years ago. And it's actually, the story is, my folks, my parents there, they were celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary. So rather than having that traditional dinner and maybe dance or something like that, they decided that they wanted to take a trip and they wanted to include the whole family. So they had always wanted to see Cuba. That was like on their, you know, bucket list, their things to do. And so we found this cruise, and this cruise just happened to also go to Key West. So we were in Key West, and we were just, doing regular tourist stuff. We're tooling around, we're taking a tour, we're just enjoying the city. And it was getting kind of late in the day, and it was about time for us to get back on the ship. And my mom says, I'm in Key West. I want some authentic key lime pie before I go. And so we walked and we walked and went through, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 different restaurants. But that time of the day, it's pretty crowded. It's busy. There's lots of people. There's no seats, half an hour wait and all that kind of stuff going on. So anyway, we had about given up, and we were coming out of this bar, and I happened to just look down the street, and there was this sign that said the Key Lime Pie Company. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that'll work. Let's go. So we walked down and we walked into this place, and I kid you not, it was sort of like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory. You just walk in and it's like, this wonderful, wonderful stuff. And so they're in there, they're making their pies and doing their thing. So anyway, so we order pie and we go to sit down. Well, my parents, they sit at this little table for 2 over by the window. And by now it's just me and my brother and my sister-in-law with them. We sit across from them. And I remember just sitting there watching them enjoy this pie. I mean, I'll tell you, it's probably the best pie I've ever had in my life. It was good. It was a real good pie. But anyway, so I was watching them enjoy this pie and enjoy their time together. And it was just like nobody existed but them two, just those two. And I remember saying to myself, like, wow, that's what 60 years of marriage looks like. So I got my phone out and I snapped a couple of pictures, and I was going to use them, for later on. I knew I was going to do something with it. And so anyway, so once I got back, I sat down and worked on this piece. This is actually a water-based oil painting. I think it is about 24 by 36. I don't remember the exact dimensions of it. But this, like most of the other pieces, like I said, when I start to paint, I get the main elements in there, but the details, they kind of float up by themselves. I try to control, what I want to see in there, but as the painting gets complete, it calls for different things. So, but anyway, I also like to experiment with textures. And my deal with this one was I wanted the glass, you can't see it in this picture because that's just the way the picture came out. But the glass, I used a heavy lacquer to kind of simulate glass, like glass panes. So I wanted to do this because I remembered when I was sitting down watching them, it was as if nothing mattered but that pie and my parents and their company. So I wanted to kind of simulate that, with the glass being the partition there. But anyway, so, but that's the story of the Key Lime Pie Company. And let me see, how much time do I have? I think I got about a minute. So I got one other piece. I just want to show you. There we go. This piece is called For the D. And this one actually came about in, I think, around March or April. It was in response to the whole COVID deal. We were on lockdown. Everything was kind of topsy-turvy or whatever, just not right. And I wanted to do a piece that kind of captured that moment. And so I started with this painting here. It's supposed to have been kind of a somber kind of, just to capture the same mood that was going on at the time. But so I started with a black canvas, and I started putting my people in there. But what I found out was my personality just doesn't allow me to linger in that area, in that negative space. So as I was painting, this picture just really started to become like a positive affirmation for the people of Detroit. You know, it was I wanted it to represent all the different types of people that are in the city, but at the same time I wanted to represent the fight, you know, the hope, the faithfulness of the city, the strength of the city. And so without going into a whole lot of detail here, because I know I'm running short on time, if you can see there we go, the light that's here in the backdrop of the city, that's the light of hope. My intention was that light was the positive, the grittiness, the comebackness of the city. And as you can see, most of the people here have that light shined on them. It's kind of hard to tell with this picture, but that's the intent there. Like I said, it just evolved into this real positive piece. The mask has different sayings. I don't know if you can read it from here, but it says like resilience and strong and faith and courage, love, all those things that make up the city of Detroit for me. And real quick, if you look through, there's a bunch of different kinds of people. It's a nod to our first responders. So there's firefighters, there's police officers, there's mail carriers, there's nurses, there's doctors, there's food service people, just a whole lot of folks. But anyway, so I just wanted to share that, and thanks for your time, and I'm going to turn this back over to Jessica. Thanks.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much, Mignon. That was lovely. Now we are going to welcome Matt.
Hi. That's a go?
That's a go.
All right, on stage. Hi, I'm Matt Clydesdale, and I'll give you a little overview of who I am and what I do, but cutting to the chase, the work that was selected for the show is this piece here, and I'll show it to you better in a moment here, but I want to start by thanking the KIA for the opportunity. Thank you, Jessica, Catherine, and everyone else at the KIA for the opportunity, and also to Bill O'Brien for, for choosing my work to be in the show. And you never know when you enter an artwork whether you're going to get in. So thank you. So I'm born and raised in Kalamazoo, and I've been doing art all my life, and I've done worked in a lot of different mediums. I've worked in a lot of different disciplines. In fact, I went to an art school in Providence, Rhode Island School of Design, got a BFA. And my major in college was actually sculpture. And for reasons I don't fully understand, I left sculpture after I graduated and got into video, and also spent 10 years working for the Whole Art Theater. So I was a real left turn to get into theater after doing sculpture. Having said that, I never lost my interest or passion for sculpture. In fact, I was very involved with the recent removal of the Fountain of the Pioneers in downtown Kalamazoo. And that whole controversy was very much in my wheelhouse, being interested in sculpture and racial justice and memorials. I'm really interested in memorials. But I haven't been working in sculpture, did my stint in theater, have worked in video, produced a couple of feature-length documentaries, including a urban wildlife documentary on animals, wildlife living in the city of Kalamazoo. And that's what got me into wildlife themes, environmental themes. and also photography. So I'm doing photography. I'm also doing digital collage. So so I work in a lot of different mediums. Right now, my main thing though is the digital collage, and my work in wildlife. And I've been doing the collage since I was in college. But my interest in wildlife and my interest in human stories led me to a series that I started probably 10, 15 years ago, where I collage people and animals. And the series called Animal Affinities. And I'm going to bring it up here in a moment. And that was my way of combining those two interests and passions in my life. I'm going to switch to share screen here. Okay. All right. So are you seeing my desktop then? Is that
Yes.
okay? There you are. Everybody's muted. Okay. So let's go to, okay. So this is some of my work. I'm going to go to, well, I'll start with my wildlife. Let's do, so I did this documentary called Animals Among Us, and it was an autobiographical piece about my discovery of wildlife in the city of Kalamazoo, and sort of my baptism into wilderness and how important it is to me, and just fascination with how wildlife has managed to coexist with us humans in these urban centers, and in and out of all the buildings and whatnot. So I've spent like 10 years just really kind of obsessed and focused on wildlife living in the city, and I've been photographing them as well as videotaping them. And this is an example right here. This is a buck that I shot in the city of Kalamazoo. But I've also traveled and done some wildlife photography abroad. Ultimately, that's not what I'm really interested in. I'm very interested in the backyard kind of theme. But so this was shot in California. This is a sea otter. And there's no greater pleasure. I mean, it's such a exhilarating art form to be able to do wildlife photography. I can't say enough. But so that leads to this work here. This is an example of this series that I was referring to, Animals Among Us. And like I said, I've been doing collage work for years now. And this was, like I said, I mean, it's my two passions, wildlife and people. But it's really rooted just in this simple notion that we are animals ourselves. And we have way more in common with animals in the natural world than not, or what we think. We tend to think that we're as human species. But so this series is really about bridging that gap and reminding ourselves that there's kinship between ourselves and animals. So, and just for what it's worth, this guy teaches photography at the KIA. And there's a story behind all these portraits, but I'm not going to get into it. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but he had a very interesting encounter with a possum, and that led to this portrait. That's Bob Shimon. And I don't know why it's not advancing here. Oh, here we go. This is another portrait. She's a wildlife advocate. She's doing amazing work with an organization trying to end wildlife killings. Just did this one recently. She's from California. This guy here is Jorge. He's a native healer. And actually, that brings up an important point. The series is called Animal Affinities, and people often mistake them for spirit animals. And the vast majority of them are not spirit animals. Having said that, this portrait here of Jorge would be an exception. This is actually his spirit animal. He's Native American. And the reason I don't call them spirit animals is because there's a real problem with that in terms of cultural appropriation and people using that term very indiscriminately and disrespectfully. So the series, once again, it's called Animal Affinities. This is a friend who works in Kalamazoo for the SPCA, and she does some fantastic work. Oh, and going back to that portrait, Jorge, he was given, his spirit animal was given to him by the Lakota, and it's a red-tailed hawk. But this is Katie Timber. She works at the SPCA in Southwest Michigan, and she does great work adopting cats and dogs. They have a no-kill policy. And she does a lot of work with pit bulls. They get lots of pit bulls, and she makes that extra effort to make sure every single one of them is adopted. And so that's her portrait. This is a buddy of mine. He had an encounter with a cinnamon black bear out west. So I created a portrait of him about it. All right, so this is the piece that's in the show. So we just did a little jump here. So Animal Affinities has been the one series that I've been doing, and I love collaging anything, but I only want to collage living things. I'm not interested in collaging buildings or man-made things. And so I was working on Animal Affinities, and I came up with a new series where I would collage people with flowers. And the series, originally I was doing entirely women. And it started to seem kind of cliche. I was doing flowers and women as kind of a classical theme and using the flower as a metaphor for sexuality. But then it started to seem a little trite, so I decided to include men. And so it's a relatively new series. It's evolving. This piece that made it into the show, this is the first guy that I photographed. And so I'm interested in the flower and using it as a metaphor for human sexuality and kind of switching it up with our expectations, our gender expectations in terms of symbolism and meaning. And, you know, the flower's traditionally always been a symbol for femininity and women exclusively. And so I wanted to expand that and really kind of break down those lines and barriers of how we define ourselves in terms of our sexuality. And so this is the first piece I've done with a guy. And I'll show you. So when I do a collage, I'll do a million different versions. It's a little neurotic. I'm never quite satisfied. So I'll do all these different versions. And so for instance, with David, this is a model I worked with. He's from Holland, Michigan. I created a bunch of different pieces. And this is where it gets kind of interesting with shows and jurors. I submitted 3 pieces, and the juror picked this one. And what's interesting about that is a juror, when they pick an artwork for a show, it says something about themselves just as much as it does about the artist. So this was the piece he picked, but I'll show you the other 2 that I submitted. This is one of the other pieces that I submitted. And the difference between the 2, I think, is really interesting too. I mean, they have a very different tone. And you can see this is a moonflower, and it's definitely got a very different feel about it. This is an anthurium flower. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but very unique flower. It's about the most masculine flower on the planet. It's the most phallic flower on the planet. Whereas this is a moonflower, and it's got just a different kind of tone and feel to it with the night scene. And then the third one was this one, which is an echeveria. Echeveria is a kind of cacti. So it's actually technically not a flower. They do produce a flower, but they're a really beautiful plant. But you can see they all have a very different feel to them. And I like exploring just all these different, the different aesthetic opportunities, but also the different feelings that they create and the different meanings that they create in terms of symbolism. I think I'm probably over my time here, but last thing I'll say is the process that I use in all of my collages. I love taking a person and an animal or a flower, and what I love is the layering, and Photoshop has given us the opportunity to do something with transparency that to me is really kind of a breakthrough in terms of technology, but also in terms of meaning.
Did Matt just disappear? Okay. Well, that was really great, Matt, and we hope that you come back. But in the meantime, I'm going to turn it over to Darian.
All righty. Hello. So I'm gonna hop right into this screen share of my PowerPoint, and then I'll give you some background information about myself. Can everybody hear me okay? Sorry about the neighbors. All right. My name is Darian Burress. I consider myself a mixed and multimedia artist. I like to dabble in everything. I like to have my hands on all the new processes and old processes. Yeah, and I'm a bachelor in fine arts student at Western, currently attending my senior year. So yeah, I'm 25 years old. I am from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I've lived in Kalamazoo or around the area for about 8 years now. Let's see if I can go to the, oh, it doesn't want to let me go to the next slide. So I mostly have an emphasis in film photography and then sculpture, as well as alternative processes, which is kind of an addition to photography and printmaking. Most of my work is inspired by identity in existence as a person of color, as well as commentary on, you know, real life events, political, the political climate and atmosphere, really just anything that I feel driven and like moved to speak on. My previous exhibition experience, I was most recently, prior to this, in the Where We Stand exhibition at the KIA that accompanied the Black Refractions tour. I've also shown at the Kalamazoo Valley Museum as a part of the Juneteenth celebration. And so for the month of June, there's a showcase there, as well as the Shades of Blackness exhibition at the Helen DeVos Center. And then beyond that, I've been a part of a few, like 3 or 4 student exhibitions at school. So kind of delving in, the piece that I did that got into the show is titled Unveiled. And it's really just about combating negative stereotypes as well as beauty standards that are placed upon people of color, specifically Black individuals. I feel that there's these stereotypes and these preconceptions about who we are or how we exist, how we are represented through media, through culture. And so this work is a commentary on that. So this is the piece as a whole that's currently in the museum. And you definitely have to get up and close and personal with it to really see the imagery. But the process, I'll go back to it for a second. The process that I used to create these prints is called cyanotype. And it's a form of alternative process involving the two chemicals ferric ammonium citrate and potassium ferrocyanide. And so in this process, basically what I'm doing is I take the film negatives that I would shoot a 35 millimeter camera and develop that negative reel, and then take the negatives and scan them in and edit them to create a large format digital negative. And then from there, I am processing it using ultraviolet rays. So this is a close-up of some of those prints. There's 3 more of them. And then just to give you a clear image as well of these photographs that I shot, I have those as well. So I'll just kind of go through them. Also, I hope you all don't mind nudity. I often use it within my work. Now that you've already seen it. One of the things I really enjoy about shooting in film is that, you know, there's only so many shots and opportunities you have to capture a photo. And it's truly about the photographer's eye rather than having a million photos to choose from and then editing them. So yeah, I try to set the shots up the way that I want them, or be keen to catch the right angles. I also really enjoy the graininess of film. I like the effect and the feel, as well as shooting in black and white. There's just something about it to me. A lot of my work is monochromatic. Okay. In the beginning of the PowerPoint, I addressed having my 2 most recent bodies of work or pieces. This is the other one, and it's entitled Where We Stand. And Where We Stand was a commentary on our current state of existence. It's a commentary on, you know, our nation being divided, and all the pain that we are all enduring, all of the suffering and the disconnect that's there. So yeah, this was a fun one. Lots of welding. It ended up being, I think, 14 feet tall, and it needed a tractor to move it into the gallery because of the weight of the base, and for stability purposes, but it was a functioning flagpole. it no longer exists. It had a very short life, but it was very rewarding to create. So now I'm going to talk about the Van Dyke process for a minute, because that's also a process that I use often. It's very similar to that of the cyanotype process as far as the process that you go through with developing and exposing the chemicals, using the ultraviolet rays, except the only difference is where cyanotype produces blues, Van Dyke produces browns. So there is a series of imagery that I showed last goodness, I can't think right now, last summer, that was called Restoration. And the body of work was just about this sense of healing from pain and past traumas. It was about growing, and it was about not only acknowledging them, but then how do we move forward? And so here are these images. These were test prints that I then created. This was a really fun time for me as well because I wasn't working in a studio setting. I didn't have access to all of the equipment that I normally would if I was in school. So I was printing these prints just using the sun. So I would run outside with my big board and pane of glass, and I'm exposing them and I'm running back in to process them. And it took a lot of trial and error. So then these are what the prints looked like once I had shown them. And they're just on wooden panels. I nailed them with upholstery studs, and yeah. So that's that. Beyond that, I'm currently working on a mixed media piece that I'm very excited for people to see. It involves like everything that I like to do. So I've got a welded steel frame, but then I'm also doing alternative printing processes in it, as well as some like rope work and weaving. So it's going to be very interesting, and I'm very excited. I feel like the more knowledge and experience I gain, then the more I'm able to combine those new skills to create grander work. But anyways, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darian. Now is the time that we can open this up to chat. So if you have got any questions for any of the artists or for all of the artists, you can either unmute yourself or you can type it into the chat. If you are having any trouble unmuting yourself, you can either actually wave your hand or you can wave your hand on the functions of Zoom, and I will find you.
Hey, my apologies for disappearing. Did I just disappear?
Yeah, you did, Matt, but we're glad you're back.
All right, right on. I was running my laptop on battery power, and I think the Zoom just drained it unusually fast. So,
well, we're glad you are back.
thanks.
So does anyone have a question that they would like to ask?
Yes, I have a question for Darian.
Go right ahead.
I love your work, and I loved your work in the Black Fractions show last year too. But I did some black and white photography. I've done it for forever, and I find that it's hard enough to do the burning and etching and all that things that you have to do. I got this straight. You actually ran outside and exposed in those pictures. Can you? I mean, first of all, I think your black and white, the quality of your black and white work is wonderful. And then you add on to that the idea that you're running around in a parking lot or something like that. Explain that to me.
Okay, so Actually, thank you very much also for the compliment, all of the compliments. I appreciate that. So basically my process involves, it's kind of simplified in some ways that I don't actually print the photographs and burn and dodge them with an enlarger in the darkroom. All that I'm doing, so I'm shooting in film and then I'm developing the film rolls. And so once the film rolls are developed, I take those and I've got my little slides and I scan them into my computer. And then at that point, I turn them into digital negatives. And that way I have control over the size of the image I can produce. And so, yeah, once that digital negative is created in the processes of Van Dyke or cyanotype, what you do is you're coating a substrate, whether you have paper, cotton, just, you can do it on any natural material, which is also fun to experiment with. But you coat that material with the chemicals, which are light reactive. And so, yeah, I would coat the paper in my kitchen in the dark, and I would have a little light safe box and put the paper in the light safe box, and head outside. I had like a board that I would set up, and it's best to do on cloudy days actually, because the sun is more even versus having a bright sunny day. You get some interesting results. And so if you get that nice even cloudy day, you take that print out, you set the negative up, and it's got to be a very quick process because as soon as the sunlight hits it, it starts to expose. So those chemicals react, and it's just like a contact print. You've got that negative right on top, a pane of glass on top of it. And timing wise, it was really just a matter of me being able to identify when it got to its darkest and densest, richest brown. And from there, taking those prints indoors and then washing them and going through that process. So yeah, it was very unpredictable. I think at the time, to get about 5 prints, I ended up making at least 35 to 40.
Well, it sounds so much more fun to do that than sitting in a dark room for hours and hours. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, actually, that's really cool. That's good to know about the cloudy day process, because I've been experimenting with cyanotypes over the summer. And we've had lots of questions about the sun. From Ohio Northern University's Zoom, they wrote powerful works, all spectacular, in the chat box. And Tamara Norman said to the artists, thank you to all for sharing insights to your pieces, very enjoyable. So thank you to both of you for your comments. Would anyone else like to ask a question? We've got plenty of time if anyone wants to ask something. I do think my internet connection is a little unstable. So if one of the three. Paula, do you have a question? She's waving. Yes.
Oh, your microphone's muted.
Aha. Minion, do you have a website? Your works are so lovely. I think she's muted.
Sorry, I was muted myself. Actually, no, I don't have a website yet. Something I think I probably will do eventually, but no, at the moment, I'm just on Facebook. Every now and then I'll post things that I've done there, but no. But thank you.
we do have two comments. One from Christina K. I thoroughly enjoyed what I heard. Thanks to all the artists for sharing the work and their insight. And another comment from Alyssa S. To me, Jessica, didn't the KIA sell cyanotype kits at one point in time? The answer to that is yes. I think we're actually still selling cyanotype kits, and that is how I got involved with making cyanotypes this summer. So if you are in the audience and you are interested in experimenting with that process that Darian was talking about, you can go to the gallery shop or onto our website. And the box kit comes with the chemicals already pre-mixed. It comes with the paper that you would need, and it has instructions. There's also a Vimeo kind of time-lapse video that Mary Whalen, who's in charge of our photography department, made so that you can watch and you can see how the process works. And it's really like fabulously fun. I really, really have loved it. And actually, Mignon, I wanted to tell you that last Saturday, I hosted the KIA's Art Detectives, which is our free virtual program. Well, normally not virtual, but now virtual program for kids 4 to 8. And I used your work from the West Michigan Area Show to lead a little visual thinking strategies process with the kids about what they could see and what was going on. And they really responded to your painting and loved it and had lots to say.
Wow. Okay, thank you. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Yes, Darian, it is pre-mixed. And I guess I'll do a little plug of something that I am doing for the KIA as well. In October, Mary Whalen and I are leading a joint workshop of cyanotype and embroidery on paper. So you can, combine those two skills. You can create your own cyanotype with us, and then you can experiment with using thread on paper, which is something that's happening in the contemporary needle art world, and it's very exciting and it's very fun. We are just about 6 minutes out. So if we do have more questions or more comments, please go ahead and share them, or we could end early, and that's totally fine.
Well, Jessica, I didn't have a question, but I wanted to make a comment. Darian and Matt, I really enjoyed you guys' work. That is just super fantastic. I was I'm really thinking about that whole cyano kit thing. I gotta look it up and see how that really works. But that sounds like a lot of fun. But yeah, I really appreciate being invited amongst you guys. I mean, like I said, you guys are great. I mean, wow, I'm really impressed. So thank you for letting me share some of your space.
Thank you, Mignon. Hey, I love your work, and I'd love to talk to you more about your environmental work.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you teach me how to paint, I'll teach you how to cyanotype.
Yeah.
So everyone on this Zoom call, you are witnessing the beginning of an artistic trio. Oh, Alyssa.
Yeah. So I'm the librarian at the KIA, and tomorrow is our first book discussion. So if you are interested, it's going to be on Zoom. Feel free to send me an email and I will send you the link. You can either email library@kiarts.org, or well, my name's a little bit difficult to spell, but Alyssa, ELLYSSA, @kiarts.org. So I hope you'll join us.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Well, I just want to give a really, really big thank you to our 3 artists today, Mignon, Darian, and Matt. It was so enjoyable to get to see more of your work and hear more about yourselves and about your processes. Honestly, just a privilege. And thank you so much for, being active artists in our community and sharing your work with the KIA and sharing your work with our viewers today on this Zoom call. And I'm sure that we're all excited to see, more work from all 3 of you as time goes on. And you said thank you to me and to the KIA for being on this call, but thank you so much for coming and giving up your very valuable time to share your stories with us today. So unless someone has a burning question, I'm going to go ahead and end today's meeting, but thank you all to everyone that came out. Thank you for your time and your questions and your attentiveness. And I hope that everyone has a really amazing rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting for all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.